Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining. So I'm going to share my presentation. Yep. And let me know if you are able to see it.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. So Nadia and I today are gonna give you an intro to Studio. And then this should be the second session. In the first session, maybe you saw what RPA is and how can you use it for your day-to-day life, work life, however you want to use it. And Studio is the main tool that UiPath has actually to automate all the processes. So the agenda for today, actually, we're going to have like an introduction on how to open the tool, how to open Studio, what is the interface, and then the first things about how you automate using Studio. So variables, data types, arguments, and how to start your first workflow. And then we're going to show you a demo. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves. So I'm Daniela, as Cristina said. It's my first time as an MVP. So I'm very proud and actually very grateful to have been selected. I've been working with UiPath for quite a while in my career in Repollo, and is the tool that I really I use every day actually. So I hope in your day-to-day you also get to use it as well as us. And then next, Nadia, I give you the stage.
Thank you, Daniela. Welcome, everyone. I'm Nadia, and I'm also like Daniela, fresh MVP this year, which is something we're both great and proud of. And today I'm gonna be presenting all along with Daniela, UiPath Studio, the tool that we use every day to develop our processes, to be able to do our work. And yeah, it's gonna be a great session to be able to share this with you. And we're gonna also reply on your questions. If you have any questions all along, please put them on the chat. We will make sure to reply to them, and there will be a Q&A session in the end. So Daniela, you can go ahead and start the presentation.
Okay, so the first part, and I hope everyone here has Studio installed. If not, you can also have it later, but the idea is that you get to see also the steps as we go along. So to open Studio, well, first, what's Studio, right? So it's the heart of automation in all the UiPath products. This is where you actually make your activities into workflows, and together they work in order to execute the automation of a process in the robot. And then you use Orchestrator as well to coordinate those processes and the execution of those processes. So there's different profiles into Studio. We're going to see the normal Studio 1, which actually is the tool that lets you design more complex attended, unattended, and testing automations. We also have Studio X, which is more focused for citizen developers, but now we're going to go for Studio. So one of the first things is that when you open Studio, we want to make sure that you select the profile that it's the correct one in order to see the same as we do right now. So when you open Studio, you get to your settings, right? And if you go to the license and profile, change profile, select the Studio, yeah. When you select this, then we can continue to the next, and we're gonna see the same settings and everything. So when you start the tab, so this is the view that you're gonna get when you open your Studio is the Start tab, right? On here you have multiple options. You can open a project that it's already located into your machine, your computer, or you can also clone from different repositories. Yeah. you can see the list of the recent ones that you have opened. Also, you get to create a new one from, you can select from process, you can select libraries, test automations, or templates. So also UiPath here gives you a great amount of templates that you can start your automations. And depending on the goal that you want to accomplish with your automation, you should select a different kind of template. So I'll show you here on my studio. This is where you get the start. It looks like this, and you can either create a new process, and you can open one from your local library. And yep. Now the next step, it should be the tools. This is very important for you guys because depending on where you're going to automate, you might need to install a few things. So you have some extensions that will let you automate applications that if you don't install them, it's not going to be possible. So this is like a first step. If you're going to automate, for example, a browser like Chrome or Edge or Firefox, then you should come here to tools and install the extension for UiPath to be able to actually interact with these applications. So that should be fairly simple. You just click there and go along with the process. And then you get your extension installed. Also, you have here some apps. I think the one that you will use the most will be the UI Explorer. And we're not going to go into depth on this one because it's related to selectors and interacting with UI elements. But then I'm sure when you follow the Academy, you'll get a nice view on how the Explorer works. Now, yeah, so the next one should be the templates. You have an option to open the templates from the start, right? You can see there the templates, the most used templates. And you can also come here to the templates and search different ones. So I'm going to show you here on Studio as well. And if I go to templates, these are the ones that are the recently used ones. And then you have search for templates. You have a different categories where to search. And if I go on all, actually you have like huge amount of templates that you can reuse from UiPath, other contributors to the marketplace. So this is a very great tool that you can use. Then if we go to the next tab, we have the settings. So on the settings, we saw the changing profile first, right? Now you have other type of settings, like, for example, changing your language and changing the theme. If you like the dark mode, I'm a light mode kind of person, but there's a lot of dark mode. And you can also change other things. So let me here show you as well. If we go to settings, you can change, as I said, language, and there's a lot of design settings that you can change from here. The locations where you actually publish your processes, what is the default path for your projects. Then you also have the sources. These sources relate actually to the packages. So this is something that also we're not going to go into depth today, but it relates to the activities that show on your studio. Then on here for the profile, we already saw. Then you have the team tab also for source control. So Studio has supports three types of source control, so Git, SVN, and TFS. And the last one you have labs. So going back to the presentation. Oh, yeah. So actually, well, the teams is a bit before, but the team tabs, it's also when you select one of your source controls in the team tab is going to show you that particular source control. So in this case, Git is enabled and you can clone and do multiple activities regarding your repositories. Now we're going to go into the actual interface on when you design your projects. So on the Studio interface, first thing is to create a new process. So how do you create a new process? In this case, we're going to select here, new project, a process type, and then we're going to enter the name. And something that is important, it's also to enter a description. You can also select the location on where you actually want to save that particular project, what is the compatibility, and the language that you want to create the project in. So this case, here, I already created my project. So if I go here on the back, I see here my first project. You're gonna see it like this. Actually, you're gonna see here just the main with nothing on it. I had created some activities, so that's what I see. And one of the important things also, if you want to follow along on the UI interface that we're going to show you, we're just going to show you first the classic design experience. Also, it's the one that we've been working the longest, but I suggest you do the whole academy with the modern design experience as well. This way you know all the types of UI automation that UiPath supports now. So to change this to classic design experience, you can go to the projects wheel, the settings wheel, and in there you can see this setting, which is the modern design experience. If you click on it, it will change to no, and then you just need to reload your project. So I'm gonna go here. And this, you go to the wheel and you will see your project settings. And on the general, you need to have modern design set as no. So the Studio interface, this is actually where we design all of our projects. We design the workflows and we create everything from here. Now you have multiple panels on Studio that could actually be, let's say, moved around for your preference. But this is the default that you would have when you install Studio. So on the left, you have the projects, the project panel, the activities panel, and the snippet. Then on the middle, you have the designer panel, which is the biggest one because this is where you actually get the insert the activities and create all the code. Then on the right, you have multiple tabs on the panels. You can have object repository, properties, outline, but then the one that we're going to discuss the most is the properties because it relates to each activity that you entered. And then you also have the output panel, and you can have some other ones like error list, references, breakpoints here on the bottom. But the output panel is also very important because it shows the logs that you have designed in your code. So logs are very important, so you can follow the steps that the robot has performed. And also, if you set it to debug mode in trace like log levels, you will be able to see when an activity is being executed and when it is finished executing an activity as well. So I'm going to open here the Studio. I'm going to show you what each panel has. So the project panel here, it has the structure of your project. So this is very important because it has each workflows in it has the levels that you have on the same project folder and as in Windows. If you go here, you can see that it opens your file explorer, which it has the same structure in folders that you have on Windows. And the other second part that is very important is the dependencies. Now, the dependencies are the packages that you have installed on your project, and it's supposed to be the activities, the applications that you're going to interact with. So, for example, you need this package, which is the UiPath.excel activities, in order to be able to interact with Excel. If you eliminate this package and you remove this dependency, you won't be able to search in the activities panel the activities related to Excel. Yeah. Now, if you also want to add on more dependencies because you, for example, you want to interact with PDF, then you can go here and manage packages and then search on your for any activities with PDF related. Then you have the activities. I'm not going to go deep on this because later on Nadia will also show you the activities. Oh, I think I'm going to show it. Sorry. The activities here are the ones that are present, and then you can add on to your project. Snippets are already workflows that have been created, and then will create very fast development. Like, for example, something that is a delay of 1 second, you can add on here, and it's already configured. Now, if we go here to the properties, this is where you will see the properties of each activity. Yeah. Then you have on the bottom here, you have the variables panel, arguments, and also imports for the .NET libraries. And here you have the output panel where you see the logs. Okay, so the designer panel, this is actually where you create your automations. This is where you add your activities to automate, to edit their properties. And actually, this is where you represent your process. So you have a visual representation of the activities or each step that you go and then you automate. And in this case, this is an example of a very small automation. Then we have the activities panel, which shows the available activities. Available activities because of what I said earlier about the dependencies. So if you cannot find something within your activities, maybe you are missing to install a dependency on your project. Now, on the activities, you can search them using the search activity here on the panel itself, and you can drag and drop to add it to your designer panel, or you can also search. I'm going to show you how to do it next. So you can either in the activities panel, search for a click, for example, and then drag the activity into the position that you wanted to enter it. And also another method is to do Control-Shift-T on your studio, or clicking plus in the place that you want to also add the activity. So I'll show you a demonstration. If I go on my project and I go on the main, sorry. Yes. If I go here, I can go to the activities panel and then just search for the activities, like for example, a click. I can drag and drop, and I can select wherever I want to enter that activity. Now I can also do Control-Shift-T, and you're going to get the search bar at the top. And then here you also have your recent activities. You can also search for the activity itself, and you can double click, and then it will add it to the end of your workflow. Now, also here, you could click on the plus sign, and if you want something in the middle, like for example, a type into, you could also do this, and it will put it in the place that you selected. Now, so the properties panel is related to actually the activities. So it enables you to view and edit the properties of the selected activity on the designer panel. So also when you select multiple activities, you can check the common properties between that selection. But the most useful is to check each activity's properties whenever you enter an activity. Configuring well an activity could be the difference between a good automation or a bad automation. Now, the way that you configure these activities depends a little bit on the nature of those properties. So sometimes it is a checkbox in which you need to see if the results or the text that you need to enter is either a string, it could be a Boolean, for example, or it could be a number as well. You could also have checkboxes for Boolean properties, and you can also have drop-down menus, for example. Now you could also open whenever you have this text, you can also open it with the 3 dots, and it will open the expression editor. So here, if you see on this click, for example, if we check the properties right here, we see if you go on top of one property, it also gives you a description. This is a click type activity. And the idea is that it specifies the type of mouse click that you want to do. So you can either do a single, you can do a double, or you can do a up and down. Up and down is like the action that we do when we like go up or we release the mouse, the click of the mouse, or we just go down and leave it down, for example. Then to open an expression editor here, if you see the 3 dots, you will see the expression editor. And then you will see here also which type of text you need to enter, right? If this is Boolean, you would say either true or false. And then for the ones that are text, you would enter something between double quotes. So now I give it the floor to Nadia.
Thank you, Daniela. Actually, we have a question before we
Yeah,
introduce the variables and workflows part. We have Gracie who asks about the language, the programming language that we choose when we create a new project. And she says if there is a difference between choosing VB or C# and what is the impact on that. So do you wanna answer the question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So when we do select the language, we are saying the language that we're going to use within Studio. So one very good thing about Studio is that whenever you have an expression editor, for example, in a text or a string, you can use the language. So you can use .NET, for example, VB.NET, in order to create an expression. You can use string manipulators, you can use anything. So that's related to the language that you're going to use within.
Yes, I have just one more thing to add. Is it also about the language in which the processes are going to be created later? So if you're going to be creating some specific components or specific activities or something like that, or you're going to be invoking code, it depends on which language you want to use more. So like if you want to use more VB, it's gonna be easier, as like in this part, you can make your expression, for example, in the language that suits you more. I hope this answered your question.
Yes, it answered. Just one quick one. So if I choose VB or C chart, it will be back when I need to write expressions, as you guys said. And sorry, I completely what I was told. Oh, so after I choose, I can change it. Like I already have the project, I start already work on it. And if I want to change the language, can I do it or no, just at the beginning of the project?
I don't, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, Daniel.
I actually haven't had any experience with changing the language. I would say it's better not to. If you start with one, I would suggest going forward with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, same goes for me. I have never changed it after creating the project itself, but it's going to be better to choose from the start what language to use. I don't really know if there is an option possible to change it on the studio.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Daniela. And I'm going to be sharing my screen. And please tell me if it's well presented.
Yes, it can be
Okay.
seen. It's okay.
Okay, good. So now we're going to be presenting the variables and workflows part, and we want to present variables actually are containers in which we want to store data. So if we're gonna create our workflows and processes, we're gonna need to use variables in order to transfer data between workflows or between activities. So these are the containers that we have to use. And variables can be created using the variables panel or also directly using Control K in properties panel or in activities. Now I'm gonna try to show you exactly on the studio how to create variables and how to pass them like from a sequence or an activity to another. Here I'm gonna be showing my studio. Is it well presented? Do you guys see it?
No, we still see the presentation.
Okay, I'm gonna be resharing the full screen. Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as I have said, variables can be created in the variables panel right here, and we have to select in which sequence we wanna create our variable, and we're gonna simply click and rename our variables. So for example, if we wanna create a variable, if we wanna input our email address, we can just create a variable and name it email, and this way we can use it to put data or transfer data from like workflow to another. So there are some okay, I'm having some problems with my keyboard, I guess. All right, so this is going to be my variable, and it's going to have a name, it's going to have a variable type, a scope, and a default variable. So here we're going to be introducing what is a variable type. It's the kind of data that we want to store in our variable. For example, if I'm going to be creating like an email, it's going to be a string, or if I'm going to be creating a counter or something like that, it's going to be integer. And we have so many different variable types we can directly choose from this panel, or we can browse all types and go ahead and type what kind of data type we wanna choose. Like for example, we can choose dictionary or anything like that, and we have multiple options to create data. So the scope is going to be the scope in which we're going to be using our variable. So for example, I'm going to be adding some activity like a click activity. It's going to be in this sequence, and then I'm going to add another sequence, and I'm going to add another, like, for example, if like, okay, another click activity to make it simple. Right. So here we can create just a variable in this scope, and we can use it just in this scope, or we can create a global variable and we can make it in the whole global process scope, and we have the possibility to change it from here. We can choose a bigger, a higher, or a smaller scope, and it depends on for how long we're going to use this variable, and for like what kind of data we want to use, if we want to use it for so many activities, if we want to use it in the same workflow or not. And for the default variable, the default property here, we can set a default value for our variable. And this can be used in case we don't have a value for that variable, it's not going to be empty. So this is the first option. The second option, we can go ahead and click create the variable directly in our in the properties part. And for example, I'm gonna use a type into activity, and in here I want to be typing like a value like the name. So the first thing we can do, we can create it using the Control K. In here we have the set variable, and we have to put the name of our variable. We want to create name, for example. Oops. Okay, so we just have to press enter, and then our variable is automatically created. So the default type is going to be string, but of course we can also change it afterwards. And the third option is by creating it in the property. Ctrl K as the same, and we can put name 2, for example. And it's created. And here we can change the scope if we want the variable to be in the whole process. We want to use it in all of these activities, or afterwards we can just change the scope of the variable. So that was it for variables. And it's going to be something we have to keep in mind, that it's going to be really hard to be able to automate something without creating variables in which we can store data and pass it from a workflow to another, or from a sequence to another. Yeah, so next, here we have already presented the type of variables and the scope of a variable. And then we're going to be presenting workflows. So Daniela and I have been showing along some kind of workflows in our demonstrations, but this in this part we're gonna be presenting actually what is a workflow, which is the piece of automation that we're going to use or reuse along our projects. So in UiPath Studio, we have different types of workflows. We have different layouts. What we have been showing here is a sequence. And in this sequence, we can create so many different, we can put so many different activities and create different workflows. And also we can invoke other workflows. So we can, the main thing that we have to keep in mind is it's going to be very interesting to create different small workflows in which we do automations, and then we can put them in a global workflow, or we can invoke them whenever we want to use this functionality or this process. So for example, here I am in the process. I have also a main, so no matter what kind, actually we should be in the, it depends on the kind of template you're going to be using, but for example, I can take the main, drag and drop it, and it's going to be used inside of the process, and the opposite can be correct also. So so workflows can give us this flexibility of creating processes, small pieces of processes, and reusing them whenever we want to. So here we have presented sequences. There's also flowcharts, state machines, and global exception handler. Next, we're going to be presenting arguments. So arguments are basically also data containers, and they are very similar to variables. The difference between arguments and variables is the way we're going to use them and why we're going to use them. So in arguments, we can store data dynamically. We can have data types. We can have different properties, and we can use them basically to store data and transfer it from a process to another, from a workflow to another. This gives us the possibility to use data not also inside of the same workflow, as we said earlier, not also inside of this process or inside of this sequence, but also between different processes. So let's see how to create arguments. It's in the same part of Studio. We have variables here, and here we have arguments. And to create arguments, we can click and create our argument, just like we did with variables. We can delete them also. And here, for example, I have previously prepared a variable, and we have also, just like variables, a name, a unique name for our argument. We have a direction, we have an argument type, and a default variable. So this is difference between arguments and variables. We have a direction for the argument, which means this argument is going to be used as an input argument to our process, or an output argument, or an input-output argument. This is the kind of directions that we have for arguments. So if I'm going to be creating an output argument, it means that in this process, I'm going to be using, I'm going to be storing data and outputting it to other processes. This is the direction, and for the argument type, it's in the same logic as variables. We can choose from here, or we can browse and choose the type of our variable, and we can also add a default value. So there is something to keep in mind when using arguments, is that there is a specific way to name arguments, which means that we have to indicate the direction of our argument inside of the argument name. So if I'm going to be using my argument as input, I should add in and dash before the name of the argument. So what I have done right here by saying this is an in file name and making the direction as out is not correct. So if I'm going to be using an import argument, I should do this. And yeah, something else about arguments, about creating arguments, we can create them also just like variables by using Control M, and then we can create our argument. For example, here in our input, in our type into, if we're going to be typing something that we're going to be using from another process, we just have to type Control M, set your argument, Here, for example, I'm going to be using an input output variable. And I'm going to be naming it like report name, something like this. So yeah, arguments are very useful in this case. What we have done earlier with the invoking the main, actually we're going to be using arguments in here. So if we're going to be transferring data from a process to another, then we have to set the values of our arguments in this part. So here, if we see we have two variables that have been created in this process. So what I'm going to be doing is the opposite. I'm going to be going to the main. In the main, I'm going to be invoking my process, which is the logical thing to do. And then, since I have created my two arguments, I'm going to be seeing this orange indicator that says you have something to correct here. We have arguments that have been created, and it's in this part that we can put the value that we want to give to this argument. So it can be used inside of the process when it starts, when the process starts. So yeah, this is it about arguments in general. Now we're going to be seeing sequences. So we have been presenting flowcharts. We said we have so many different layouts of flowcharts. One of them is sequences. Sequences are the easiest way, let's say, and they are very practical, in fact, because they are used in case we have some simple and easy workflows to create. So we have the sequence part. It doesn't need to have so many decisions trees or so many different parts that we want to implement. It's going to be linear and it's going to be sequential. So what we have been presenting earlier is sequence processes. Like in the process, we have created a sequence in which we added a click activity, in which we added another sequence to create another thing. And in this sequence, we added different activities. So we can see here, it's very linear, it's very simple. It doesn't have so many different decision trees or decision parts. So let me show you quickly how to create a new process and how to create a new process that is a sequence. So we can go here and click and just simply add. And here we can see the different kind of workflows that we can create, the different layouts. And in these layouts, we have a sequence. We have to give it a unique name, like it's not going to be process because we have one, but we can say sequence test, for example. All right, and this is simply the location of the sequence. And when we click on create, it's going to be creating an empty sequence in which we have all the flexibility to drag and drop activities, to add on different workflows or invoking new activities. And yeah, this is very simple very simple and useful in the same time, and you're going to be using this a lot all along of your automation journey, I guess. And now we're going to be presenting flowcharts, and I'm going to be giving it to Daniela. Daniela, do you still hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Can you please start presenting the flowchart part?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Am I sharing?
Yes, we're seeing your screen.
Great. Okay, so flowcharts. This is like the second most used type of workflow that you can create. So what is the difference of a sequence and a flowchart, and when to select either one? So the most important aspect of the flowcharts is that in sequences, of flowcharts, unlike sequences, it's that in the flowcharts you can actually present a more visual branching, and then in this case you can represent more complex automations in a more visual way. So when to use it, we should use flowcharts when we have multiple decisions within one workflow. So a best practice is to always divide the workflows in a way that they're going to be understandable, that they don't have a huge amount of activities, and then they can be readable, right? Each workflow should have a particular functionality, and then sometimes that functionality does imply some decisions within it. So when you use a flowchart, you have multiple options, right? So you can use a flowchart like in the one that you have here on the screen, where you can you can enter the activities, and then the most important one would be the decisions. That's what's going to give you the branching within your code. But then also in flowcharts, you can also add sequences. So that's also like one other part of actually making your code a bit neater and prettier, let's say. The advantages is that it's easy to understand decisions and, for example, loops, right? So when you have a decision that you want to go back to one state and you want to repeat an action, you can use flowcharts to view very quickly that your process actually is, it has an iteration, it has some repetition of steps. Of course, you can do this as well in a sequence, but in a sequence, you have to rely on do while for each loops, for example. And then if you have many activities in within, it could be sometimes a bit messy, and you cannot select from which point do you start to repeat an action, right?
Daniela,
Yes.
can you please share the slides because we're not
Oh.
seeing them? Yeah.
I thought you saw it. Okay, 1 second. And this is the screen. This is the screen.
Yes, it's good.
Okay, sorry.
Please go ahead.
So yeah, these would be a flowchart of that you have some activities, you have an assign, you have input dialogues, and then you have the decision. In this case, you have a decision that it's either true or false. So the result, it's either true or false. And then you have two branches. Then for another way of branching out in a flowchart, it would be to using a switch, for example, and then you have multiple options. So I'm going to show you here on Studio. You have, as Nadia mentioned, you have the possibility of creating new workflows either from here, from the project. You have here add, and you can select sequence or flowchart. And then also on the top here on new, you can create new sequence or new flowchart. Here we also name it. So I'm going to create a flowchart test. And then you here see a flowchart will always have the start, right? So this is the start of the automation, the start of the steps. And then here's where you can build your code. One thing that you should be careful when using flowcharts is that do not use a flowchart if you don't have a decision. It's totally unnecessary. It looks better within a sequence because there's some activities that you don't actually see in the same way, or you don't see all the properties when you enter them within a flowchart. or in a sequence, right? So for example, if you see a type into here, you actually have to double click to see it and see the properties. This is not necessary, of course, because you'll have the properties on the property panel, but it's somehow, let's say, different view on it. Then, so the most important thing here is actually the decisions. And I'm going to search for flow decision, for example, to connect. Whenever you're using a flow chart, you can drag and drop close to where you want to actually connect it with. And then you can hear it will automatically create that connection of that line. You can also just drop the activity and then connect it. So you can also use, let's say, multiple types of connection. You can move it right here and then connect it from the side. If you see the 4 lines, you can connect it right there. So a flowchart actually requires you to be very organized, because a flowchart, it is a tool where you can have a more visual flow of a visual steps,
Presentation.
yeah, presentation of your code, but it could also get very messy if you have if you don't arrange it well. Then you have here the flow decision. The important thing is to set here the condition, which the outcome or the result output should be a Boolean. You can write expressions here. It doesn't have to be a Boolean variable, but you can here put something, put any expression. In this case is vv.net, because I selected this type of project. Then another thing that you can do here is the flow switch. You need to select, so here there's 2 things, right? So you have the control switch, which is the switch that goes on a sequence. So do not use this one. You should use the flow decision, right? So on the flow decision, actually you have multiple outcomes. So you need to select which is the type of arguments or the type of the results from your switch, right? So you can have a switch in integer numbers, you can have a switch of strings, you can have a switch of any type, any data type on the .NET list. And if, for example, I would enter here the integer, then I have here an expression. I could also like have a variable that it's like an integer number. I created it from control K, so I'm gonna see. So if you create it here and it has the type that you want, it automatically creates your variable correctly. You don't need to change it. Then here you can connect multiple things to when you drag that arrow, you have the options, right? So this option, for example, is just the default, but if I click on the arrow, this is where I can select what is the value of this particular scenario. So if I unclick here, you get case 0, for example, and I can also put any number, which is integer, and we'll go here. And then you have, I think it's up to 12 cases that you can select, and you just modify it in each arrow. Let's say this would be, if this number is 1000, it goes this way, and if it's 3, it goes the other way. So in here you could also have expressions, so you don't need to have here a variable, but you can have multiple expressions. So for example, sometimes you can even do an if inside the the flow decision for you to like actually say and state particular cases in which you want to follow on. But yeah, that's next step. So on here on the flow switch, you could also, sorry, on the flow switch, no, but on the flow chart, as I said, you can also use sequences within the flow chart. for example, if you want to here group some activities together that are one by one, right? So a sequence usually is just about a sequence of activities. And you can put here, instead of actually having to link all the activities together inside a flowchart, then it's also more organized, because if, let's compare it, if you have two clicks that just go one after the other, you fill out more space within your screen than if you enter these two within here and then just check here on the sequence. So this could be navigating to screen 1. And then in that one, you have 2 actions, which are 2 clicks in order to perform this action, let's say. Yeah, so when to select a sequence or a flowchart, sometimes you start with a sequence and then you see that the size of your sequence gets very big. Sometimes that indicates that you might need to switch to a flowchart. So why is that? Because here on the sequences, you can have the same, let's say, the same conditions. So you have an if activity as well. And you can have nested ifs, right? And if you have too many nested ifs, and I'm gonna try this as well, like if you have actions inside actions and inside actions, then this becomes not visual, right? So you have to actually extend the designer panel in order for you to actually see what's on here, what's on the other side. And then the conditions are not very easy to read, and you lose a little bit of the logical of the logic of the process in here. And then if you add on loops within this, then it's too much, right? So sometimes if you see that your screen is getting smaller and smaller, and then you have to navigate through your code too much, sometimes if you have too many decisions, just try to use a flowchart and it will look much nicer and it will actually work just the same. And on here, I don't have anything to add. I don't know if there's any questions.
Are there any
So-
questions to what Daniela presented so far?
Nope.
Okay, no.
So, so actually for this one, we're going to present you with a demo. So on here, we have a website that was created by UiPath, which you can use in your trainings in order to develop processes and test out your abilities. We're going to show you how this bot works and what it actually does. And then Nadia will go through the code and show you how it is done. And also, if you have any questions about the code itself, we'll go through all of it. So I'm going to play this here. And then she's starting the automation, and you will see that it goes very, very fast. But we will show you exactly what it actually does. So first thing is that it opens the page, right? So I'm gonna go back here a little bit and just stop it. And she's starting the automation and it's actually going really fast, right? So it opens the website in Chrome, I believe. And then this is the rpachallenge.com, right? Now on here, we see there's multiple exercises that you can perform in the RPA Challenge website, but we're going to see the input form. Now, this is actually a challenge to see how quickly, or like which bot or which person develops the faster bot. So you can later on, I dare you to do it faster. And on this one, so you can read the instructions, but the main thing is to download an Excel you will see this Excel has actually, I think I can open it from here. I'll show you. So this is the challenge Excel. One moment. Yeah. So it just has the list of people that we need to enter. So it's like a form. We have an Excel, and then we need to enter each detail, the details of each person into the website, right? Then you have here the form. But then in order to start the challenge and to actually get how long your bot has performed and how fast it has performed, you need to click on start. After you click start, this is the position in which you need to enter the data, right? So you see here, for example, first name, last name, and then they are in this position. You enter the data and then you submit. So you can see here that the data has been entered. When the bot clicks submit, the position of these fields actually change. So you're going to see it later on when you go through the academy, that this is actually something that it's not as easy as it seems to enter the data. So there's some tricks that you need to know in order to be able to enter the data when it moves like this in the website. And it just goes to entering each, let's say each row that we have on the Excel. And then once you have entered all the data, it will give you the success rate. So the success rate is actually regarding how well or exact match on the text that you entered on each field. And then it also gives you the time in which the robot performed and entered all the data. And that's it for the bots. And now we can present to you how the code was actually built.
Yeah, thank you, Daniela. So I'm gonna be resharing my screen. Okay. Okay, so do you see the UiPath Studio screen?
Yes.
All right, so as Daniela has explained, what we have done is very, very simple. We wanted to show you exactly how to use UiPath Studio sequences and activities in order to be able to automate something. So as Daniela said, first of all, we're gonna start by opening the RPA challenge. It's simple. We have used an activity that's called open browser, and we have set the link here to open the RPA challenge. And then this is a demonstration also of using the sequence. And after opening the browser, we have already put in a sequence in which we're gonna be performing our activities. So the main part here is to go on the website and then to click start. And after clicking start, we're going to be performing some input data activities, and that's directly from reading the CSV file that we're going to be downloading. So here we have used read range, a simple read range activity to just read our Excel file, sorry. And this is a simple also demonstration of how we can use variables. I have created this variable just to show you rapidly what can it have. I'm not recommending this as the best way to do this stuff, but it's just to show you how we can use it. So for example, I wanted to open my file, so I have simply created this variable. In this variable, I have set the default value, or also we can add an assign activity in which we can put our variable, which is selected file path, and in here we can input the name of the file. So just to demonstrate how to use variables. And here I have set the scope just to be in this sequence. So it's going to be used in here because I don't have to use it outside of this. So this was just rapidly. There was a trick, as Daniela has said, in manipulating this challenge. This trick, I'm not gonna show you how we did it. I wish that you can start automating yourself and using Studio. It's a very fun challenge, and if you can do it by yourself, it's gonna be great after this session. So instead of showing you what we did exactly inside of this, I'm gonna let you explore yourself, and I'm gonna be running this process to show you how it does the work and how it opens Studio, etc. So in here, we have the choice between running this file, running the whole process, and debugging it. So in the debug mode, we're going to be showing like step by step what has been going on. You can explore also this. We may not have all the time to show you everything in Studio, but you can explore it yourself. And here you can set all the properties that you want. And let's go back in here and just run our file. Like if I'm gonna click on run file, I'm gonna be choosing to run only this file. If I'm gonna be here and click run this file, I'm gonna be just running just this file. However, if I'm gonna choose simply run, it means that I'm going to be running the whole process, the whole project. In this case, if I'm using a template and I'm going to be launching from the main process, this is going to include all the steps and the workflows that are included in this process. So today for the demonstration, I'm going to just be using run file. And the process is going to start in run mode, which is real with the real speed. As you can see, it's really fast. It types into every part, submits, clicks on the next round, and here it has already finished. So here it gives you the score. I have to stop because I've been modifying my process, so I don't know what did I add it on. So yeah, here we have finished all the rounds. We have inputted all the data in this CSV file. So we're gonna go row by row, and in each field we're gonna be inputting the first name, the last name, etc. And the fields are gonna be changing. After each input, we're going to be submitting and changing the row until we finish typing into all the data. And here it's going to be calculating rate. It depends on how many correct data have you been putting in the correct field. So we can see that it has finished in nearly 10 seconds and with a 100% rate of success. And here you can explore more and you can do really faster. The idea here is to show you how does it work. You can go really fast and it's gonna be like so fast that we cannot even see what's exactly happening in the screen. So yeah, that was all for the demo. If you have any questions, please let us know. There's also a few things that I wanted to show you before, but if you have questions first about the challenge or anything. I cannot see the screen, but.
We'll tell you if there are questions. Are there any questions for Nadia? Oh, what, was it all clear? Okay, thank you, Grace.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna be just showing something that you may have seen some differences between my studio and the studio of Daniela. It's actually the same version, the same studio, but there is also some kind of flexibility on the way you want to be using your studio. Like for example, me, I have chosen to put it this way because for me, this is the most flexible and suitable way to help me develop easily. We can also choose where to put our panels. Like, for example, I can choose to put this one here, or I can choose it to put it here like this, like Daniela, for example, or I can choose any other kind of position. I'm not going to be playing a lot, but you have seen, so this part also, I can make it disappear. I can add it here. So we have the activities, the properties. So you have the flexibility to really put on and reconfigure your studio in the way that makes it easier to you to perform your work or to use it, generally speaking. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any questions?
No questions, I see.
Good.
Okay, that's good.
That's a good sign.
Great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go back to the presentation.
So thank you for joining this session. This is just a little intro on Studio. You will need to check in the Academy all the topics about the automation of all the activities, of everything that you can do. This is a very, very powerful tool, and it will really help you on your career or even on your day-to-day if you want to automate something. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining. Please don't forget to follow up in Academy, and you can start up with what you learned in these first 2 sessions for Intro to Studio and complete the RPA Developer course, and then you're on your way to becoming an RPA developer once you have completed the RPA Foundation in Academy, the RPA Developer Foundation course. So please go to Academy and finish that course. And if there are any questions, try to get support on forum or write us at community.uipath.com. Also, don't forget to visit us at community.uipath.com. So this is our community ecosystem. Here you can find all the resources you need in order to help you on your RPA journey. Thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you very much, Daniela. It was great having you here today and seeing you train. It's very powerful tool indeed, and we're very lucky to have had your expertise with us today. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.